Okay, we are live now. Good evening, Miss Loretta. Actually, hi. So I looked into your Inner Mammal Institute's the method, and you have listed around 20 very interesting and valid points. Now I had some of the questions regarding this point, so I would like to go through these questions one by one. And quickly get your point of view and for a broader understanding.
Okay.
So thank you. And
let's just tell people that they can read the points for themselves at innermammalinstitute.org/method.
Yeah.
Method. Okay, good.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so now I will also be sharing this screen so that people know what we are discussing about.
Oh, good.
Okay, so based on your website here in the innermammalinstitute.org/method, the first point you make is I accept my mammal brain. So now, from my point of view, can you define like who is that I? Like, who is that I who has to accept this mammalian brain? Is not the I part of this mammalian brain?
Okay, so there's a lot of different answers to this.
Yeah.
I think you are referring to this long-standing question in philosophy. It's often called the homunculus question. Homunculus means little man, in Latin, as if there's a little man in your brain. And modern scientists debate looking for one particular part of the brain that's in charge. I don't agree with this whole perspective. And I think a lot of people don't agree. And I'm totally not that interested in finding one part because the parts work together. So the way I think about it is the me is the totality of the neural pathways that I've built from past experience. And the reason is that the cortex is designed to scan for patterns. It takes in things that fit the patterns it's already stored. And so me is whatever patterns I stored in my past experience. So for example, if I grew up in an environment that spoke a certain language and I hear a word from that language, it fits my pathways, my patterns. If someone else grew up with a different language and didn't learn my language, then different sounds will fit their patterns. Okay? But to not be technical, the implication of the sentence is I accept myself despite the fact that my mammal brain produces responses that I didn't consciously intend to produce. But I changed that sentence actually. So if people go to my website, they'll see that it says something different because I thought that although I like the sentence the way it is because it's useful and it's short, but a new person who would say, what is the mammal brain? They may think I'm saying that you should act like an animal, which you know is not at all what I'm saying. So what I wrote now is I accept the brain I've inherited.
I see. So I mean, you want to change this in your webpage soon?
It's already changed. If a person goes there now, they'll see that it's already says, I accept the brain that I've inherited. So the implication is most people think they've inherited it, you know, from their parents or something. But of course, your parents inherited it from someone else and it goes way, way back. So whatever it is, you inherited it. And if you hate your brain, you hate yourself and you hate your life. So the way to start is by accepting the fact that you have this brain, even though you think you can't control it and make it do what you think it should do every minute.
I see. Okay. So then let me also update my document with that particular detail here. That is done. I accept the brain I have inherited. But ma'am, then this will begs the question that, you know, like, is my gene responsible for all my behavior, or is everything learned as I grow up? Right. So the the culture also affects the brain per se, right? Like whatever I've learned. Okay, when you say inherited, you mean genetically inherited, or from the society it came?
I'm not a big fan of this thing about society. And if we go there, we're going to spend the whole time there and we're not going to get to the other questions. So I'm just going to give you a very fast answer.
Yeah.
The brain we've inherited wires itself from life experience. So each person has a random collection of experiences. And then maybe people think there's some ideal program that we should have gotten in our brain. And somehow they got shortchanged and left out, and other people got it right, which is not true. A brain it's designed in a primal state to seek food and reproduction, but how it goes about that is depending on neural pathways built from experience.
Okay, thank you. This is beautiful and a very simple answer.
Thank you.
And the second question we have here is, my brain evolved to promote survival, not to make me happy. But generally, if you see many people, they always want to be happy. I want to retain my happiness. The question they ask is, how can I always be happy? And I've read many of the spiritual and religious, especially the spiritual religious says, if you want to be always be happy and peaceful, you should be a monk and all those things, right? So there is always a desire to retain the happiness naturally by every human being, but you are saying it is not possible.
So a brain is designed to seek happiness, not to produce happiness every minute. So for example, when a monkey finds food and relieves its hunger, it's happy, but it's only happy until the food is digested. And then it has to seek more. So your brain rewards you when you find what you seek. It doesn't reward you with happiness by just sitting around every minute and getting the happiness every minute. Okay? Now that's from a primal perspective. Now from a philosophical perspective, spiritual perspective, whatever people want to say, they look for like a higher level of happiness, because we all know that just looking for food and reproduction is, you can't get happiness from that every minute, because then you'd overeat and you'd get in trouble with your spouse, right? So the bottom line is, we're not designed to be in that peak state at every moment. That peak state is designed as a reward to motivate survival behavior. But because humans can abstract, then once the peak state is over, we're like, oh, I don't like being in a non-peak state. How can I get more of that peak state? And so then we look for more food, but then we realize we'll gain weight. So then we look for another way. So it's because our lives are so easy and our needs are already met that we have to look for these other ways to meet our needs. And to relate to your perspective, Gautama, Buddha,
Gautama.
Yeah, Gautama Buddha was from a family that protected him from threat and fed him with everything he could desire. So he had no way to seek and to get happy by seeking. So he didn't live in the realistic world where your needs are so hard to meet that it makes you happy just to meet your needs. So this is a new problem we have just since the age of birth control, because before birth control, you had so many kids, you were so desperate to feed them. If you didn't feed them, they cried. And then by the time you found food, you had another baby. Okay, so this is the new problem, except for princes who have their needs met easily, and philosophers, and people like, you could say, monks, who say, I'm not going to worry about meeting my own needs. I'm going to let other people meet my needs, which is not my perspective.
Okay, but their whole aim then to get a permanent happiness is not realistic.
Okay, good question. It's not realistic, but it's still natural to want it,
Okay,
right?
I see. I see.
So it's natural to want it and to seek it, but it's not natural to expect it and to think something has gone wrong if you don't have it.
I see. So it is like the carrot hanging in front of the horse, which it's always running.
That's a great analogy because we can see that that carrot is on a stick, but the horse doesn't know it. So that's a really good analogy.
Okay. That okay. So the whole of this whole spiritual monks and sacrifices and leaving the society, going to the forest, it is all a infinite loop or never achievable target. Wow, this is a courageous statement.
Well, and it is, but another way of looking at it is if you didn't know this, then you would think, I must have happiness every moment because your brain equates happiness with meeting survival needs. So when you're not happy every minute, you think, oh my God, I'm not surviving. What's wrong? So then what would you do? You do something desperate, like the simplistic example is eat another cookie, eat another cookie, eat another cookie. And you know from our conversations that I use eating a cookie as a generalized way of each individual's past experience with whatever short run thing you turn to that you expect to give you that feeling. And it's the expectation built from past experience for each individual is different.
Yes. Okay. I mean, it could be eating cookie in your example. For me, it could be eating noodles or something else, right?
Yes, exactly. It could be alcohol, pills,
Oh,
cigarettes, starting an argument, starting a friendship, starting a company, starting a new book. You know, that's my my addiction.
wow. Okay. Then let me ask you this question, ma'am, which is related. So now, see, you know how your mind functions. Now, do you also have these addictions? Are you also motivated? Do you know this is just a imaginary carrot? I'm never going to get it, or are you in a state that where you are never pushed and pulled by your emotions? Like, are you, because you have this understanding, right? It's all my emotions dragging me this direction, making me to eat the 10th cookie. So you have this understanding, and then so you still have those things, or you still clearly say, no, this is just a emotion. I need not be bothered. It's unnecessary for me to eat the 10th cookie.
Oh, well, first I have to say that I'm old, and so I I have more experience, and so I wasn't necessarily having this insight when I was young,
Okay.
but I don't even eat the first cookie
Ah,
until I've planned. It's like
wow.
I know that I don't do like the emotional eating,
Mm.
but I say, it's natural to desire a cookie. So I'm not going to have no cookies ever because that's like self-victimization. So
Oh,
I'm going to make a healthy cookie and I'm going to have it after I tackle my hardest project. And I'm going to tackle my hardest project for 1 hour.
mm.
And then I'm going to be rewarding myself rather than infinitely burdening myself with hard projects. So I have, like in the state of nature, I give myself a reward after an effort.
Oh, okay. So after you understood how your mammalian brain works, you don't have any regret or a guilt feeling for like the mistakes I did last week,
Oh,
yesterday. I got corrupted. I yielded to my like
yeah,
the
yeah.
and
Yeah,
those.
yeah. So this is what I meant about being old, that I tell myself, I don't have that much time left to be happy. So do I
Wow.
want to waste another minute of it
Yeah.
worrying about something that I worried about 20 years ago? You
Mm.
know, and
A
I
failure
don't.
earlier.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend any more time worrying about something. So I say, what other thought can I have? So, and
Wow.
example is like, one example would be if somebody disappoints me and I'm frustrated. I know that that feeling is caused by my belief that that person is an obstacle on my path to reward. And so I just have to visualize a new path to reward so that I don't feel obstructed by that person. So that's one example. Now, another example would be, what can I say that's going to please this person or not make that person mad at me? And then I tell myself, I can never predict what will please other people. And so instead of spinning my wheels and worrying about, will I please them, will I displease them, is to say, how can I interact with this person so that I will feel good about myself regardless of their response? Just some examples.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. This is all very deep, insightful, and very practical.
Yes. And yeah, and you know what? And let me use my kids for example. How old are your kids? I forgot.
He's 12-year-old now.
Oh, 12. Oh, good. This is perfect example, because I was going to say he's just maybe getting to the age where maybe he will not see you in the same way.
Oh, yeah. Like, to give you an example, I always used to hug him and kiss him all these years. Now he's as tall as me. Now, the distance.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, and I'm sure he's very respectful, but let's say he may be a little bit less respectful of you, And so my kids are in their 30s, and now I have worried so many years, like, what am I going to say to not make my kids mad at me? And then I realized that that's a circuit that I built from worrying about what made my mother mad at me. And if I just repeat that same thought loop, that's not helping my kids. They don't like it when I worry about making them mad. So I'm better serving them by being more authentic. But the minute I'm authentic, then then I think, oh yeah, but then they're going to be mad at me. So then I have to say that this debate is inside me between this circuit and this circuit. So I have two different circuits. I want to get along with my kids, and I grew up fearing my mother. And so I'm trying to have one circuit says, don't make people mad at you. And the other circuit says, be authentic.
Yeah.
And it's a war inside me. It's not about them.
Okay. Fine. And then how do you end it? Like, so then bluntly you tell your children.
So one idea is to say, okay, I'll give myself 5 minutes to debate it, and then I'll stop. And then every time I catch myself debating it, I say, you know what? I already debated that. I'm going to just shift my focus to something else that I'd rather be doing. And that's the basic skill, is just, okay, I'm going to choose what else would I rather be focusing on rather than playing the same debate.
Okay. Ma'am, actually we have 20 questions. So if we can finish 10 questions today and take the 10 questions next week, or you want to finish all 20 questions only today?
No, that's reasonable. Yeah, 10 today and 10 next week.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so now, because I'm deviating from this main point because it is an interesting and useful discussion for the general public. So now you said you have your own debate. So now for you, there is a gap between the way you behave and then the internal mental arguments and weighings you have. So fortunately, maybe over years, you have learned this trick of slowing down and thinking for yourself before you behave or act in the external world. But for many people who are mad with anything, like there's a road rage, or there is somebody picking up a gun, and then deliberately they think, they know shooting others is bad. People know it. But still they are so much raged about their school or colleague or their neighbor. They take a gun. They don't do this mental debate. They take especially, I mean, in some countries where gun is allowed, you can go to Walmart and buy gun, right? So they take the gun, they go and shoot and kill people, and then they're also in serious trouble for their lifeline. But for you, you have these conscious decisions and debate before you even talk. You debate and then use the right words. You choose the right words and be and talk in a friendly, good way using the right words. But for others, they just follow their their impulse.
Okay, so first I would say this model of angry people
Yeah.
is, I think, partly a creation of the media.
Oh.
So I don't necessarily agree with this representation, because the media has a shared view that our society is the problem. So that's the ideology. They always take that as the starting point, and then they always back into this like, oh, we're just helpless. It's not our fault. We have these reactions because our society is the problem. So the fact, I think, is that in my case, I don't want to be angry because anger feels uncomfortable. But the fact is that some people get rewards for being angry. So let's say you feel alone and you join a group of angry people. And when you share their anger, then they accept you. You belong. If you get angrier than them, then you're a hero. So, as you know from my work, that serotonin, the one-up feeling, everyone looks for the one-up feeling. Anger gives you the one-up feeling, and it also bonds you to other angry people. So people learn from early experience that anger is rewarding. So that's one side of the story. Now, another side of the story is that withholding your anger, and many people not only withhold but deny their anger, and then they have physical stress. They're physically withheld from that.
Okay.
So on the one hand, one extreme, the other extreme. So how can we be in the middle? So in the middle is the fact of life is that every child is born powerless. So our core foundational circuits are this powerless feeling. And it's not society's fault that you feel powerless. Now, the minute we have free time and our needs are met, we start thinking about the future. And when you think about the future and you don't have any emergencies, the fact that you're mortal and you're going to die comes to you. And this is such a bad feeling that many people like to be in a snit about something short run, because it's so scary to think about our inevitable decay. So it's not society's fault that I'm going to die. But being angry at society or angry at somebody who's more powerful than me is a way of distracting myself from fears about the reality of my life.
Okay, fine, ma'am. See, okay, that is maybe for the people who have, like, hanging out with people who have this anger issues and all those things. I believe every average person will be angry. Like in some moment, this spur of the moment will be angry, right? So now I get the angry and somebody slaps. It might not be even so much thinking. Even I personally felt to slap somebody when they're talking something which is unfair, unethical, illogical. The feeling has come to me, right? In the situation now, I also know some of my friends like who don't have this much patience. They physically get into a fight, right, for whatever reason. But I know I can slow down my thought. I can see it, then I'll think slowly, okay, it is unnecessary to fight with this guy, let's leave it for now, and all those things, right? So now, how come some people just go immediately get involved and then slap somebody else, and how come people like you who will look say, hey, it's not worth, even though this guy is an idiot, he's talking unfair, unnecessary stuff, but I should not slap him. Like, how do you stop that anger from behaving in the external world? Like, you consciously stop it?
Okay, well, there's two kinds of answers. So you asked for me. So my actual experience is that when I was a kid, my mother beat me. And when you're beaten,
Yeah.
you're angry, you want to hit back. But if you hit back, then you get beaten even worse. So by the time I was a year old, I had completely withheld my anger. So I'm not saying that I'm any, great hero. I'm just repeating my early experience, just like other people repeated their early experience. So I had to learn more to, with the cliche, get in touch with your anger and not act on it, but to know that other people are not going to beat me. Because if I go through the world assuming that other people are going to beat me, that's the thing. Now, for a person whose parents didn't beat them, which, a lot of people did, but the other early experience that everybody has is your parents' pain. You learn to feel your parents' pain. So whatever your parents were suffering from, you feel it because it affects you. And so today, when you hear a guy saying things that would have bothered your parents, you have a really strong circuit for it to bother you.
I see. Okay. But okay. Now, for a general public, let us say there is a person who has got anger issues, who gets into physical fights and slaps. Now, for that person, if he reads one of your books, and let's assume he understands, okay, this is just my inner mammal not accepting this fact, and this is my old circuit which is making me to react this way. So, how does a layman who reads your book transforms himself? Not to physically unnecessarily fight with anybody else.
Okay, good question. Do you want to suggest a more realistic answer? Because I mean a more realistic question, because I think the people who really get into physical fights probably aren't reading my books, don't you think? So you want to
I might have a friend who is literate, who know English, but I know he always get into fights. Actually, I know my friends.
Okay.
Right?
I just wanted to make sure it was a real question. Okay, good. Okay, so you have this friend who actually not only does he hit people, but he does it so fast that then he'll say, well, I couldn't help myself, right? Is that it?
Not only that, and later he finds out rational reasons to even validate him. But then there is no reason why to slap your own mother or your own neighbor or your own relative.
Yes. So I'll give you a few examples. Imagine a child who grows up watching their father slap their mother, right? Or imagine the child who grows up watching their mother slap their brother. Or imagine the child who grows up with, like, in the schoolyard, one kid slaps another kid and steals their food, and they learn that the way to get food is to slap people. So it's early experience that tells you this works. So whatever, a person can look at their own circuits and see how early experience taught them this works. And that circuit is so big from that early emotional experience, which is why your electricity flows down it so quickly and turns on the behavior so quickly. And for, it's a stereotype, for men, maybe it's more often unleashing the behavior. And for women, it's more often clamping down on the behavior, withholding, and but there's men and women with both patterns.
Right. Or they say, I mean, the joke is that so the manager insults the husband slaps the wife, the wife slaps the kids, and kids go and kicks the kitten, and the whole cycle.
Exactly. And what was such a learning experience for me is when I learned that monkeys do this. This is exactly how it works with monkeys.
Okay, this is like then monkey see, monkey do.
Yes. But also, monkey do, monkey get rewarded with serotonin.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And that builds a pathway. The next time your serotonin is low, you're like, what can I do to feel strong and powerful? And you just repeat that old circuit, whatever it is. Now, let's say a person who doesn't hit people, but a person who insults people. So a person who says, this one's a jerk, this one's a jerk, this one's a jerk. This is a very common thought pattern these days. I think college professors are guilty of teaching this to young people so that they just learn, oh, all you have to do is criticize anyone in power, and that makes you strong and important. And that's all. Everybody just grows up. My boss is a jerk. You know, this one's a jerk, that one's a jerk. You know, all political leaders are jerks. That gives a person a feeling of power without them doing anything effective to actually build their power.
Okay. Now, ma'am, I just want to ask you this question. A minute ago, you said when I don't have anything to do, then I have this desire to feel powerful. Then I want this serotonin. So now, so when I don't have anything, and then I understand a chemical comes, and then you use that chemical to react. But then, because of what, I feel this lackingness that I should get power. Can you please throw some light on it?
Yes. Well, as you know from reading my books, in the monkey world, if a monkey always withdraws from conflict, it will never get any food, and it will never get any mating opportunity, and its genes will be wiped out. So a monkey has to assert itself. Otherwise, another monkey will steal the banana, another monkey will steal the mating opportunity, and it will have nothing. So every little monkey, nobody feeds a little monkey except for breast milk. That little monkey will starve if it doesn't assert itself. But when it asserts itself, it gets bitten. And so now it doesn't want to get bitten, but it doesn't want to starve. So it has to make very careful, like, ooh, where can I get a little assertion? Oh, I'll just grab this. I'll just grab that. And so that brain builds that skill of how can I assert myself? Now, in the modern world, let's think of it as a student in school who says, well, how can I feel accomplished and skillful? And you try all these different things and you say, oh, I was good at that. I'm going to do more of that. And I was not good at that, so I'm not going to do more of that.
So instead of when there is a free time, so this emotional system will push or create the right chemicals to go out and assert himself. Is that an impulse and a push comes from the inside?
Yeah. And yeah. I just introduce a concept. I call it neutral. So let's say the last time you asserted yourself, let's say 2 hours ago, and you got a little serotonin and it's metabolized and now it's gone. Your body has processed and excreted it. And now you're in neutral. So there's nothing wrong with being in neutral, but many people, they're not used to it. So your inner mammal thinks, oh, something's wrong because, yeah.
This is beautiful. I mean, honestly, after reading like so many years of spirituality and philosophy, your words are is falling in place. Like I'm getting so much clarity about so many questions I had all these years from your simple words. So this is actually personally for me very transformative. I'm getting like with your one answer, at least hundreds of riddles in my life clarified. Okay, so now because of that, okay, this is the reason. So now what you're saying is this what you're saying this middle path is like an unstable, like use this word, sorry, I missed this word.
Neutral.
Okay, so what you're saying is this neutral state is unstable.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it can be stable, but you have to learn that it's stable, because in the animal world, so you could say it's like nothing is going on. You know how teenagers are like, I'm bored, nothing is going on, right?
Yeah.
And you think,
Yeah.
well, The world has a million different things to do. But in
Right.
order to do one of those things, you have to have the expectation of reward. And that's a circuit you have to build. So, what I call neutral is the moment when you're choosing which reward is worth investing my effort in. So,
Okay.
if you're hungry, then going for food is the only reward, is the only reward worth investing in. So, in
Right.
the state of nature,
Okay.
almost all your effort got used up just looking for food.
Right.
So today, now it's more of a challenge. It's like, okay, I have no emergencies to
Right.
take care of.
Mm.
So now I have the luxury of deciding what to invest my energy in, but I don't want to invest my energy in something and then get disappointed. So I have to look for an opportunity, let's call it that. So
Mm.
we're always sort of scanning for our next opportunity. So
Right.
that's a better way of looking at it instead of saying it's unstable.
Okay. So I'm in the so-called natural state where I have nothing to do, right? So now, why don't, okay, so actually, as you said, there's always a millions of opportunity in the external world to go out and do. So then, why am I getting bored? Why don't I choose the top 10 of those things and start planning and acting on it?
So because I explained the expectation of a reward. So the
Yeah,
simple example I always use, if you watch nature videos and you see a predator like a lion is looking around for which prey it should run after, and it waits
yeah,
for a good opportunity. It doesn't run
right.
after the first thing it sees, because if it runs after the first thing it sees, if it knows that that's too far away and it can't get it, and it wastes its energy, then it's not going to have any energy when something good, a good opportunity comes along. So you're constantly saying, should I invest my energy in this opportunity or keep looking for a better opportunity?
Okay, so then, but I can consciously decide, right? Because everybody has got lots of work to be done, either studying, cleaning their room,
Mm.
things, right?
Cleaning that room. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
So, if I'm a teenager, if I know I'm in a neutral state, there's no
Yeah.
urgent action to be required. Why don't
Okay.
I consciously be
Because
responsible?
the teenager doesn't expect cleaning their room to be rewarding.
Nobody does, but then, so
No,
you
but
just
I do, because when I have a mess on my desk and I say, okay, I have two choices. I can clean the mess on my desk, or I
yeah,
could do some other project. And I'm
yeah,
comparing the expected reward of this other project to the mess on my desk.
right.
Right?
But why don't a teenager think the same way?
Because they do, and everything else seems more rewarding than cleaning their room.
Oh, for them, the easy reward is something else. No, ma'am. If it were to be so, then they should not say they're bored. They should go for the easy rewarding thing. It could be even as simple as watching TV or something else. Why should they ever say I'm bored?
Okay. Um, they want a reward that's bigger than TV because they've already spent so many hours. They know that TV isn't going to be like fun. So
Okay,
let's say that 2 weeks ago, a teenager went to a party and got a taste of a big reward,
okay,
right?
okay,
Like maybe the teenager saw one of their friends doing something they wish they were doing.
okay.
So that's sort of like taking a drug in the sense that anytime you get a big reward, then
Mhm.
you lose interest in smaller rewards.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
So a teenager sees that in the world there are other teenagers getting big rewards. And
Mm.
so getting your mother's love is not a big reward,
Okay,
right?
okay. Thanks, ma'am. Okay, so now let's go back to
let's
this.
let's go. How about number 5 at least? Or let's keep moving. Oh, what? Yeah.
Okay. So number 5 is based on your the method. Number 5 says I can. Okay, let me share the screen. 1 second. Okay, I can build a new neural pathway by feeding my brain new experiences, right? But what happens to the old pathways? Is it like permanently deleted, or it goes away always? Or maybe is it still there so that sometimes they might bring the thoughts and the experiences uninvited and unintentionally? Do you think the
Yes.
previous? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. In my opinion, it's still there, but the bottom line is it depends on what old pathway we're talking about. If it's an old pathway from a very significant part of your life that was repeated over and over and over, like the thing that was constantly on your mind when you were young, either a very bad or a very good or both, that's always going to be there. By the way, I can define a very good as anything that relieved very bad. So here's a simple example. Let's say you're a young person and something bad happens and you're very upset. So let's say there's a lot of chaos in your home, you have no control over it, and it's very painful, but you can't escape.
Okay.
And so how do you escape? You find something to do that occupies your mind, and everyone who's listening can figure out what that was for them. And anything that takes your mind off of this unpleasant situation, that's salvation for you. So for one person, it's reading a book, and for another person, it's taking a drug, and for another person, it's baking a batch of cookies. And for another person, it's eating the whole batch of cookies. So whatever it is, for another person, it's calling your friends. And for another person, it's calling your friends and sticking with them even when they do unhealthy things. So whatever it is for that person, that pathway is huge because the early experience was huge. So it happened in your myelin years, and it will still be myelinated. So the pathway is still there, but you can build a new pathway to steer away from it.
Okay, so how can I build a new pathway? So when every thought comes, I should repeat it, or like what's the technique? How do I do it?
What I tried, as you know from reading my books, the simple answer is repetition. So you design the alternative behavior that you want and you repeat it. So you say, next time I'm upset about this thing and I try to solve it by going into the old pattern, what alternative would I like? And the alternative I like, I always use a simple example is, let's say I put some comedy on my phone and I listen to 5 minutes of comedy. Okay? Now, what a person needs is a bridge between the moment I'm upset and turning on the comedy. So that's the bridge you need to build from repetition. And all of my books and videos explain how to do this.
Sure, ma'am. Thanks. Actually, it's nearly 10 o'clock for you now. Shall I continue for a few more minutes, or shall we do it next week sometime?
Yeah, let's do it next week.
Sorry.
So we'll start next week with number 7, because that's the next one with your comments. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Now we'll focus more on the comments. Okay, great. Well, that's good. Do you want to do the same time next week?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Great.
We can do that.
Okay, good. Have a great week.